Hello everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Fluently, the channel where we help you improve your English through interesting and relevant conversations. Today's topic is one that has been making waves in the financial world for over a decade: Bitcoin. Whether you've heard of it as a digital gold, an investment opportunity, or simply as a new form of currency, there's no denying that Bitcoin has revolutionized the way we think about money. By the end of this video, you'll not only have a better understanding of what Bitcoin is, but you'll also pick up some useful English phrases that will help you sound more fluent when discussing this cutting-edge topic. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Speak English Fluently, the channel where we help you
Hey Emily, have you been following the news about Bitcoin? It seems like every day there's something new happening with it, whether it's a price surge, a new regulation, or a big company announcing they're accepting Bitcoin as payment.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin is such a fascinating topic, and it's incredible how much it has grown in popularity and value over the years. I remember when it first started, and people were skeptical about its future, but now it's become a major player in the financial world.
Definitely. What I find really interesting is how Bitcoin has managed to stay relevant and continue growing, despite all the ups and downs in the market. It's like nothing can stop it from becoming more and more important.
Exactly. And the fact that Bitcoin is decentralized, meaning it's not controlled by any government or central authority, makes it even more intriguing. It gives people more control over their own money, which is something that appeals to a lot of people.
Right. And speaking of decentralized, do you know what that actually means in the context of Bitcoin? I've heard the term a lot, but I wanted to make sure I fully understand it.
Sure. In the context of Bitcoin, decentralized means that the currency is not controlled by any central authority, like a government or a bank. Instead, it operates on a peer-to-peer network of computers that work together to verify transactions. This decentralized nature is one of the key features of Bitcoin, and it's what makes it different from traditional currencies.
That makes sense. So, instead of relying on a bank to process transactions, Bitcoin transactions are verified by a network of computers, which makes it more secure and less susceptible to fraud.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why so many people are interested in Bitcoin. It offers a level of security and transparency that traditional financial systems often lack.
Definitely. And I think that's why Bitcoin has become so popular, especially in recent years. People are looking for alternatives to traditional financial systems. And Bitcoin offers a way to have more control over their money.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is how Bitcoin has gained a reputation as digital gold. It's seen as a store of value, much like gold, but in a digital form. This has led to a lot of people investing in Bitcoin as a way to hedge against inflation or economic instability.
Yes, I've heard Bitcoin referred to as digital gold before. It's an interesting comparison because, like gold, Bitcoin is scarce. There's a limited supply of it. Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever be created, which makes it valuable.
Exactly. And because of this scarcity, many people believe that Bitcoin will continue to increase in value over time, especially as more and more people start to adopt it. It's like a modern-day version of gold, but with the added benefits of being digital and easily transferable.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. And speaking of transferring Bitcoin, how does that actually work? I've heard that transactions are recorded on something called the blockchain, but I'm not entirely sure what that is or how it works.
Great question. The blockchain is essentially a digital ledger that records all Bitcoin transactions. It's called a blockchain because it consists of a chain of blocks, where each block contains a record of multiple transactions. What makes the blockchain unique is that it's decentralized and distributed across a network of computers, meaning that no single entity controls it. This makes it very secure because once a transaction is recorded on the blockchain, it's nearly impossible to alter it.
That's fascinating. So, the blockchain is what ensures the integrity and security of Bitcoin transactions, making it a key part of how Bitcoin functions.
Exactly. And because the blockchain is transparent, anyone can view the transaction history, which adds another layer of security and trust. It's one of the reasons why people believe that blockchain technology could be used in other areas, not just for Bitcoin.
Definitely. And it's interesting to think about how blockchain could be used in other industries. I've read about how it could potentially revolutionize areas like supply chain management, voting systems, and even healthcare.
Yes, the possibilities are almost endless. The fact that blockchain offers a secure, transparent, and decentralized way to record and verify information means that it could be applied to a wide range of fields. It's one of the reasons why so many people are excited about the technology.
Absolutely. And it's amazing to think about how much Bitcoin and blockchain technology have evolved in just a few years. I remember when Bitcoin was first introduced, and it was seen as this niche thing that only a few tech enthusiasts were interested in. But now, it's become mainstream.
Definitely. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and it really paved the way for all the others that followed. But what's interesting is how different cryptocurrencies have developed their own unique communities and use cases.
Exactly. And speaking of Bitcoin's community, it's fascinating to see how passionate and dedicated people are about it. There's this whole culture around Bitcoin, with people who believe that it's not just a currency, but a movement.
Yes, I've noticed that too. There's a real sense of community among Bitcoin enthusiasts, and many of them see it as a way to challenge the traditional financial system and promote financial freedom.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes Bitcoin so unique. It's not just about the technology or the potential for profit, it's also about the philosophy behind it. Bitcoin represents a new way of thinking about money and finance, and for many people, that's what makes it so compelling.
Definitely. And it's interesting to think about how Bitcoin has sparked debates and discussions around issues like regulation, security, and the environment. There are so many different perspectives on these topics, and it's important to consider them when thinking about the future of Bitcoin.
For sure. One of the biggest debates right now is about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. The process of mining Bitcoin requires a lot of computational power, which in turn uses a significant amount of energy. This has raised concerns about the sustainability of Bitcoin.
Yes, I've heard about that. The process of mining is what allows new Bitcoins to be created and transactions to be verified, but it's also very energy intensive. Some people argue that the environmental impact of mining is too high and that more sustainable alternatives need to be found.
Exactly. And it's interesting to see how different solutions are being proposed to address this issue. For example, some people are working on ways to make mining more energy efficient, while others are exploring the use of renewable energy sources.
That's really important. It's great to see that there are efforts being made to reduce the environmental impact of Bitcoin, because it's an issue that needs to be addressed if Bitcoin is going to continue to grow.
Definitely. And it's just one example of how the Bitcoin community is constantly evolving and adapting to new challenges. It's a space that's full of innovation, and there's always something new to learn.
Absolutely. And speaking of learning, have you ever thought about how Bitcoin could change the way we think about money and finance? It's a really interesting concept to consider.
Yes, I have. Bitcoin challenges a lot of the traditional ideas we have about money. For example, the idea that money has to be issued by a government or that financial transactions have to go through banks. Bitcoin offers an alternative system that's decentralized, borderless, and open to anyone with an internet connection.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin has been so appealing to people who are looking for alternatives to traditional financial systems. It offers a way to have more control over your money and to participate in a global financial system without the need for intermediaries.
Definitely. And it's interesting to think about how Bitcoin could potentially change the way we do things like banking, investing, and even how we think about the concept of value itself.
Absolutely. Bitcoin has the potential to disrupt a lot of traditional industries and to create new opportunities for innovation. It's an exciting space to watch, and I'm curious to see how it will continue to develop in the coming years.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are drawn to Bitcoin. It's a space that's full of possibilities, and there's always something new to discover.
Exactly. And speaking of discovery, have you ever thought about how Bitcoin could be used as a tool for financial inclusion? In many parts of the world, people don't have access to traditional banking services, but with Bitcoin, all they need is an internet connection.
Yes, that's such an important point. Bitcoin has the potential to provide financial services to people who are unbanked, meaning they don't have access to a traditional bank account. This could be a game changer for people in developing countries or those living in areas with limited financial infrastructure.
Exactly. Bitcoin offers a way for people to participate in the global economy, even if they don't have access to traditional banking services. It's one of the reasons why so many people see Bitcoin as a tool for economic empowerment.
Definitely. And it's amazing to think about how much potential there is in this technology. Bitcoin isn't just about making money. It's about creating opportunities and breaking down barriers.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin has become so popular around the world. It offers a way to challenge the status quo and to create a more inclusive financial system.
Definitely. And it's interesting to see how Bitcoin has also sparked discussions around issues like privacy and security. Because Bitcoin transactions are recorded on the blockchain, they're transparent, but they're also pseudonymous, meaning that while the transaction history is public, the identities of the people involved are not.
Yes, that's a really important aspect of Bitcoin. It offers a level of privacy that traditional financial systems don't, but it also raises questions about how that privacy should be balanced with the need for regulation and oversight.
Exactly. And it's a topic that's still being debated. Some people argue that the privacy offered by Bitcoin is essential for protecting individual freedom, while others believe that more regulation is needed to prevent illegal activities.
Definitely. And it's a complex issue, because on one hand, you want to protect people's privacy, but on the other hand, you also want to make sure that Bitcoin isn't being used for things like money laundering or financing illegal activities.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the challenges that regulators and policymakers are facing as they try to figure out how to approach Bitcoin. It's a new and rapidly evolving technology, and there are still a lot of questions about how it should be regulated.
For sure. And it's interesting to see how different countries are approaching the issue of Bitcoin regulation. Some countries have embraced it, while others have taken a more cautious approach.
Yes, the regulatory landscape for Bitcoin is constantly changing and is something that anyone interested in Bitcoin needs to keep an eye on. How Bitcoin is regulated will have a big impact on its future.
Definitely. And I think that's why it's so important to stay informed and to understand the different perspectives on these issues. Bitcoin is still a relatively new concept, and there's a lot to learn and understand.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin is such a fascinating topic. It's not just about the technology or the potential for profit. It's also about the social, economic, and political implications of this new form of currency.
Definitely. And it's amazing to think about how much Bitcoin has already changed the world in just a few short years. It's exciting to think about what the future might hold for Bitcoin and for the broader world of cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. Bitcoin is definitely a topic that's worth exploring and understanding, especially as it continues to grow and evolve.
Wow, what a comprehensive discussion about Bitcoin. This digital currency has truly changed the way we think about money and finance, and it's exciting to see where it's headed. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and learned some new English expressions along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Speak English Fluently, so you never miss another episode. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next video.